Back in late 2020, I remember sitting in front of my laptop, glued to every scrap of information about Sony's long-awaited release, the A7S III camera. I had been using its predecessor, the A7S II camera, for several years, and while it had served me well, its shortcomings were becoming increasingly hard to ignore. Shooting in low light often felt like a gamble, and keeping up with fast-moving subjects required more effort than I wanted to admit. So when the news of the A7S III camera broke, the excitement in the creator community was contagious. Big names on YouTube were breaking down its specs, and I found myself watching those videos over and over again, trying to imagine how it might elevate my work. Now, fast forward to 2025. After years of using the A7S III camera on everything from professional music videos and documentaries to smaller personal projects, I feel I can finally answer the question many people still ask. Does this camera hold up today, or has it been left behind by the wave of newer releases? Let's unpack it carefully: the good, the bad, and everything in between. A camera built for video creators. At the heart of the A7S III camera is a 12.1 megapixel full-frame back-illuminated XMR CMOS sensor paired with Sony's Bionz XR processor. That low megapixel count might sound underwhelming in a world where we now regularly see cameras boasting 40, 60, even 100 megapixels, but there's a reason behind this choice. The A7S camera line has always been about video-first performance. Instead of chasing resolution for still photography, Sony leaned into what video creators need most: sensitivity, speed, and clean output. The larger pixels on the sensor are capable of pulling in an incredible amount of light, which makes this camera a low-light monster. Shooting in dimly lit environments, whether it's a city street at night, a candlelit concert, or a moody interior scene, feels effortless. Where other cameras struggle with noise and banding at higher ISO settings, the A7S III camera delivers footage that remains clean, detailed, and entirely usable. On top of that, the dynamic range sits comfortably at around 15 stops, giving creators plenty of room to push and pull their images in post-production. Recovering blown highlights or shadow detail isn't a nightmare here. It feels like the camera was built with color grading in mind. Even 5 years after release, this low-light performance remains one of the A7S III camera's biggest advantages. In 2025, no other full-frame camera in its class matches its night shooting prowess. For creators who thrive in cinematic, shadowy environments, this feature alone keeps it relevant. Video capabilities that still impress specs matter, and the A7S III camera checks most of the boxes that professional videographers still expect today. It can shoot 4K at up to 120 frames per second with 10-bit 4:2:2 color internal recording. This combination gives you buttery smooth slow motion, high color fidelity, and the flexibility to push your footage in post without fear of banding or artifacts. For those who need even more, the camera offers the option to output 16-bit RAW via HDMI to an external recorder, something that remains impressive for filmmakers working on high-end productions. S-Log3 and HLG picture profiles are available, allowing shooters to choose between a flat, gradable image or HDR-ready footage straight out of the camera. While 8K video recording is becoming more common on newer models from Canon, Nikon, and even Sony itself, it's worth remembering that 4K is still the gold standard for most platforms in 2025. Social media, YouTube, and streaming platforms continue to prioritize 4K delivery, meaning the A7S III camera is still producing exactly what most creators need. There's also the practical benefit of manageable file sizes. While 8K footage provides incredible detail, it also demands massive amounts of storage and post-production power. For many independent creators, those extra hurdles simply aren't worth it yet. The A7S III camera sits in that sweet spot where the quality remains cinematic, but the workflow is manageable. Autofocus and ease of use. Sony's autofocus system on the A7S III camera is one of the most reliable I've ever used. With 759 phase detection points covering nearly the entire frame, the camera locks onto subjects quickly and holds on with precision. Real-time IF, for both humans and animals, feels almost uncanny in its accuracy. Whether I'm vlogging, capturing live performances, or tracking moving subjects, the autofocus rarely lets me down. Compared to the newest flagship models, like Sony's A1 or Canon's R5 Mark II, the A7S III camera does fall slightly short in terms of eye-driven subject recognition. Newer systems are better at identifying specific subjects like cars, birds in flight, or even insects. Still, for most filmmakers and content creators, the difference isn't dramatic unless you're working in niche environments. For everyday use, the A7S III camera's autofocus remains more than capable. Another major improvement over its predecessor is the fully articulating touchscreen. This addition made framing shots infinitely easier, especially for solo creators or vloggers. Combined with a redesigned, far more intuitive menu system, the usability of this camera finally caught up with its image-making capabilities. Build, ergonomics, and reliability at just under £2, the A7S III camera is lightweight yet feels incredibly durable. Its magnesium alloy body and weather sealing have allowed me to confidently shoot in the rain and dusty outdoor environments, and during long, demanding days without fear of failure. The grip is comfortable, the controls feel solid, and after hours of handheld shooting, the lightweight build is a blessing. The dual card slots supporting both SD-UHS-2 and CAF-Express type add flexibility for different workflows. While CAF-Express cards are expensive, they're essential if you're recording at the highest bit rates. For most users, high-speed SD cards are sufficient and far more budget-friendly. The 5-axis in-body stabilization offers around 5.5 stops of compensation. While this is helpful for handheld shooting, it doesn't eliminate the need for a gimbal during run-and-gun scenarios or while walking. It's solid, but not groundbreaking compared to newer stabilization systems available in 2025. Where the camera falls short, of course, no piece of gear is perfect, and the A7S III camera has its share of limitations, some of which are more noticeable in 2025 than they were in 2020. The most obvious drawback is resolution. That 12.1 megapixel sensor, while excellent for video, feels restrictive for still photography. If you're a hybrid shooter who needs both video and high-resolution stills, the A7S III camera is not the most versatile option. Images look fine up to medium print sizes, but heavy cropping or large format printing exposes its limitations. When you compare it to newer cameras like the Nikon Z8, which offers 45 megapixels and still manages superb video features, the A7S III camera feels like a specialist tool rather than a jack of all trades. Another limitation is the lack of 6K or 8000 recording. While 4K remains dominant, certain clients in commercial markets have already shifted toward 8K capture for future-proofing. In those contexts, the A7S III camera falls behind. If you're shooting indie films, YouTube content, or music videos, this may not matter at all. But if you're competing for high-end commercial contracts, it could be a deal-breaker. Battery life, while improved with Sony's NP-FC10 battery, is still average by 2025 standards. Expect around 600 shots or about an hour and a half of 4K recording per charge. That's workable but not exceptional compared to more efficient systems released in recent years. Finally, for photographers, the lack of a dedicated second control dial can feel like a small but frustrating omission. Manual shooters accustomed to dual dials may find the workflow a bit clunky. Value in 2025 when it launched, the A7S III camera carried a premium price tag of around $3,800. 5 years later, it's still not what most people would call cheap. The challenge is that newer cameras like the A7 IV camera offer higher resolution, strong video features, and often come at a lower price, especially on the used market. For enthusiasts or hybrid shooters, the A7 IV camera or similar competitors may make more sense financially. That said, for dedicated video creators, the A7S II's value lies not in its spec sheet comparison but in how it performs in real-world use. The footage it produces is beautiful. The workflow is streamlined, and despite newer options on the market, this camera still feels like it was designed with filmmakers in mind. Final verdict, still a specialist tool. So, does the Sony A7S III camera still deserve a place in 2025? Absolutely, though with some caveats. It's not the newest or the most versatile camera available, and it won't satisfy those who want ultra-high resolution stills or 8K capture. But for creators whose priority is high quality 4K video, low light capability, and a reliable tool that simply delivers, the A7S III remains a fantastic option. Over the years, I've taken this camera on countless shoots, street documentaries, music videos, travel films, and personal projects. Not once has it truly let me down. The footage consistently looks cinematic, grading is a pleasure, and the ergonomics make long days of shooting manageable. Even in 2025, when the market is flooded with advanced options, the A7S III still feels like a dependable workhorse. In short, it's not for everyone. Photographers or hybrid shooters will likely be better served by higher resolution models. Professionals needing 8K for future-proofing might want to look elsewhere. But for filmmakers and video-first creators, the A7S III camera is still one of the most compelling tools around. It may no longer be the shiny new toy, but it's far from obsolete. And for me, after 5 years of use, it still has a permanent place in my kit and likely will for years to come.